Assalamu alaikum. This is lecture number 9, and in this lecture we are going to start new chapter, that is homeostasis. So here is a brief introduction. Organisms, external environment or conditions in which the organism lives can be different from one another, right? Then organisms also need to maintain temperature, acidity, salt and water composition within their body to survive. So organisms undergo certain activities in their life, which are the basic life processes such as digestion, respiration, etc. And because of these activities, there will be a number of unwanted chemical form in the body, which are dangerous or harmful for the body. That's why to survive, organisms have to maintain a steady internal environment to face the changing external conditions, right? Biologists termed this maintenance of a steady state as homeostasis, which is derived from a Greek word which means staying the same. Definition: the set of regulatory mechanisms which are involved in maintaining organisms' internal environment within suitable limits. This is a formal definition for homeostasis. And here, environment refers to the conditions in which organism lives. For example, amoeba lives in pond water, so this is the environment for amoeba. And here amoeba maintains its body, or homeostasis takes place within this environment, right? Similarly, in higher animals, tissue fluid is present for that purpose, and in plants, sap is present. Now, some aspects of internal environment which we need to maintain are osmoregulation. What is osmoregulation? The regulation of osmotic pressure of the cell. Then excretion, which is the removal of excess substances or unwanted or toxic metabolic byproducts from the body. And thermoregulation, which is the regulation of temperature within tolerable limit by our body. Now, concept of feedback. Homeostasis requires a check and balance mechanism, which is called as feedback system. And how it works: whenever there is any change occur in the internal substance of the internal environment, this change will be detected by some organs which are called as receptors, and these receptors report the change to control center, which is brain in higher vertebrates, and then brain decided the response accordingly, and this response is received by some other organs which are called as effector. These are the organs which are responsible to making the condition of that change in back to normal. So the feedback mechanism can be negative feedback mechanism and positive feedback mechanism. The negative feedback mechanism refers to opposite effect produced in relation to any change in the body fluid. To understand that, I am giving you an example. For example, if we eat any sweet or candy, the glucose level of our blood will be raised or high. And when this occur, it triggers the mechanism which decreases the blood glucose back to the normal limit. So it is opposite in the of the change, right? While in positive feedback mechanism, what happens? A series of similar effects produced in response to the change. For example, if the temperature of the body raise or high in warm blooded animals, what happens? It further increases rather than decreasing it, like in heat stroke, which is harmful. Now, osmoregulation, the first process, the first aspect. In terrestrial animals, what are terrestrial animals? The animals which lives on land. And how they osmoregulate their bodies? By evaporation through permeable surfaces which are exposed to atmosphere. We know that arthropods and vertebrates are the most successful land dwellers, right? And why is that so? Because they have developed number of strategies to maintain osmoregulation of their body fluid. And what are those strategies? by the help of waterproof external coverings. For example, the reptile, birds, and mammals, they have a waterproof keratinized epidermis, or the outermost layer. Epidermis is the outermost layer. It is waterproof, right? And insects have cuticle, which is also waterproof. So, in both the animals, what happened? These external coverings help avoid the water loss, right? Then storing and excretion of solid waste. Reptile, birds, and insects, they excrete uric acid as the nitrogenous waste, which is insoluble in water. So they store it temporarily in their body and reabsorb the water from it. Then use of metabolic water. In few animals like camel and kangaroo, they use water which is produced during the breakdown of their body fats. We know that the camel can survive without drinking water for several days, because they can use the water which produced in the breakdown of the body fats, right? Then by storing the waste, like in mammals, uh, uh, they retain or store the waste in their kidneys, and this waste helps in reabsorption of water in the kidney. Now, osmoregulation in aquatic animals which lives in water. So first we will discuss the freshwater animals. They osmoregulate their bodies by contractile vacuole, and contractile vacuole is present in unicellular organisms like amoeba and paramecium. It is a membrane bound tiny sac, and we know that the body of amoeba or paramecium have higher osmotic pressure than their surrounding water. They live in water. Their bodies have higher osmotic pressure than their surrounding water. That's why the water constantly comes into their body by the process of osmosis, because in osmosis the solution will travel from the less concentrated area to the high concentrated area. As the water outside the body of the amoeba has less concentration, and the internal environment has a higher concentration. That's why the water comes inside the body of these unicellular organisms. And if it is not regulated, then what happens? This water can burst their body, or this unicellular organism, right? So contractile vacuole stores excess water which comes into their body, and when completely filled, they discharge it out of the cell through a pore. Example, amoeba and paramecium. Now, the another example from freshwater animals, that is fish. How they osmoregulate? They osmoregulate by producing dilute urine. Why they do so? Because their internal environment is hypertonic. Hyper means more. Their internal environment is more concentrated than the external surrounding water, right? Because of that, again, what will happen? The water will come inside the body, or the body absorbs the water, and that's why they don't need to drink a lot of water. And again, the ions are also coming inside their body by gills, and when they excrete, they need to excrete a large amount of dilute urine because of the presence of water, right? And in this process, they also lose some essential ions from their body, but it is recovered by taking these ions by the help of their gills. Now, osmoregulation in marine animals which lives in sea, right? The sea water is highly concentrated water, right? And the internal environment of the fishes which lives in sea are have hypotonic internal fluid. Hypo means less, so they have less concentrated internal fluid. That's why what happens, the water loses through their skin, because again, in osmosis, what happened, the solution will travel from less concentrated to the high concentrated area. That's why their body water will lose through their skin into the highly concentrated seawater, right? That's why they need to drink ample amount of water, or a lot of water, right? They excrete ions through their gills, and again with the excretion, but How it is maintained or regulated? Because they drink ample amount or huge amount of water, so the ions comes into their body with the seawater, right? Now excretion. What is excretion? Excretion is the process of removal of nitrogenous metabolic waste from the body of an organism. It is very simple phenomena. You have studied it in your previous classes as well. We will study different nitrogenous substances which are present in different animals, such as ammonia, urea, uric acid, creatinine or trimethylamine oxide, and hypoxanthine. These we will discuss few excretory products in detail, like ammonia. Ammonia is small, present in a small gaseous molecule which is highly soluble in water, right, and diffuse rapidly across the plasma membrane of the cell. As this is very important feature, as it can diffuse rapidly across the plasma membrane, it will help in some kind. We will discuss it in further points. It is highly toxic if remains in animal's body. That's why it is needed to excrete out of the body. But it can be diluted with large quantities of water. Obviously, as it needs large quantities of water, and that's why it should be excretory product of some aquatic animals, right? The excretory ammonia is beneficial. Why? Because of the rapid diffusion. Here I have discussed that they can rapidly diffuse across the plasma membrane, and because of that it will not require energy, and its removal requires a lot of water for dilution. That's why they are found in aquatic animals, particularly the freshwater animals. Examples: fish excretes ammonia through their gills. Soft-bodied invertebrates, they remove ammonia through their entire body surface. Then urea. It is relatively less soluble in water and about 1 lakh times less toxic than ammonia. So it can be tolerated by animals in much concentrated form, and in terrestrial animals or the land animals, they can't afford to lose a lot of water because they don't live in water. That's why they excrete urea instead of ammonia. So they need to change ammonia into urea, and for that conversion what happen, it takes place in liver, and it will require energy in the form of ATP. Urea is excreted by mammals, most amphibians, sharks, and some bony fishes. Uric acid, they are present in larger molecules, and they are have low solubility in water. They are produced as colloidal substances. What are colloidal substances? The substance in which the smaller molecules are suspended in some other fluid, right? More absorption of water results in, that's why if the more absorption of water occur, it will result in its crystallization of urates and formation of uric acid. Again, we will need this excretory product to be converted, and it will require again energy in the form of ATP. So the suspension of uric acid or solution of uric acid is then discharged in the form of thick paste or as solid pellet. It is converted into thick paste or as solid pellets. What is pellet? Pellet is harder spherical or round small structures. Land animals like birds, many reptile, insects, and gastropods excrete uric acid. Thank you.